There has been a visible change in the world order ever since Joe Biden took over the Oval Office. Biden's America is contrastingly different from Donald Trump's America. President Biden likes China and hates Russia. However, from the days of the USSR to the post-Soviet era, Russia and India have continued to be the closest of allies. This is paving the way for a new world order, with Modi's India and Putin's Russia on one side, and Biden's America and Jinping's China on the other. Hi and welcome to TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I am your host Rohan Sachdeva, and today we're going to discuss how Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Russian President Vladimir Putin are continuing to strengthen their time-tested partnership to give birth to a new global order. Geopolitical analysts in recent times have been viewing the world through a rather narrow lens. The popular narrative has been to pit a blossoming Indo-US partnership versus the Sino-Russian strategic axis of convenience. But in reality, this is hardly true. Moscow and New Delhi have always been friends, right from the Soviet era. Even after the Cold War ended, New Delhi did warm up to the West and Moscow did engage with China, but not at the cost of the Indo-Russian partnership. India and Russia have made this equation very clear at a diplomatic level. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Wednesday tweeted, "Had an excellent conversation with my friend President Putin today. We discussed the evolving COVID-19 situation and I thank President Putin for Russia's help and support in India's fight against the pandemic." PM Modi himself gave many hints with the use of phrases like excellent conversation and my friend President Putin. He further added, "To add further momentum to our strong strategic partnership, President Putin and I have agreed to establish a 2+2 ministerial dialogue between our foreign and defense ministers." The big message coming out is that India and Russia are going ahead with a 2+2 ministerial dialogue at a top level. The popular perception is that the dialogue will clear up some of the misunderstandings that have arisen between New Delhi and Moscow in the recent past. But as the South China Morning Post has reported, many ex-diplomats have decoded the 2+2 ministerial dialogue as a clear message from India to the US and from Russia to China. Kanwal Sibal, a former Indian Foreign Secretary, said that New Delhi was keen to demonstrate that it retained its strategic autonomy in a strong message to Washington. The most recent issues between New Delhi and the Biden administration have been as a result of senior Democratic lawmakers constantly nudging Biden to take up issues like India's purchase of Russia's S-400 missile defense system. The strain in Indo-US bilateral relations were also clear when the Biden administration initially refused to supply vaccine raw materials to India, whereas Putin's Russia offered to provide India medical-grade oxygen as well as the antiviral drug remdesivir. By holding a much-hyped 2+2 ministerial dialogue with Moscow, New Delhi is making it clear that India and Russia remain time-tested allies and that India's partnership in Quad in the Indo-Pacific with the US, Australia and Japan doesn't come at the cost of its decades-old ties with Russia. Gautam Bambawale, a former Indian ambassador to China, also said, "It is a very significant development that shows our relations with Russia are as important as India's relations with the US, Japan and Australia." Meanwhile, Russia has a few important messages for China. As Russia and China developed a convenient relationship in the backdrop of increasing American pressure on Putin, Beijing tried to pull Moscow away from India. Yet Sibal said, "The signal to China from Russia is politically important." He added, "It is Russia's way of telling China that the close strategic relations will not limit Russia's choices with India and that the strands of its policy are independent of each other. It also means that Russia will continue to supply advanced weapons to India." This is exactly where the Indo-Russia alliance becomes extremely significant. For the past 1 year, the Chinese PLA have been locked in a tense military standoff with the Indian army in eastern Ladakh. India's response and quick military deployment against China's border provocations have come as a rude shock for China. The Xi Jinping administration understands how Russia's supply of arms makes India a formidable military force. Yet, Russia is not going to oblige China, but will instead continue strengthening India with the supply of advanced weapons. Apart from all the symbolism that the 2+2 dialogue carries, Putin is sending across a very blunt message to Beijing. Given a choice, Russia could well choose New Delhi over Beijing, and Putin has his own reasons to do so. Firstly, it is true that Russia does have some reservations about the emerging Indo-Pacific alliance of Quad, of which India is an integral part. But it is equally true that Moscow is also alarmingly wary of Beijing's increasing footprint in Russia's privileged sphere of influence, like Eastern Europe, Central Asia, and the Baltic Arctic. Putin understands that while India is a responsible power, which is ready to discuss and converge its interests with Russia, China is an expansionist power, which could backstab anyone. Secondly, Putin does notice how China is more or less already betraying Russia. With Biden at the helm of affairs, China is trying to reconcile its business interests with the US. So on one hand, Beijing is exploiting Moscow's growing isolation by the Western world, while on the other, China is itself trying to do business with the same West. As such, Russia too has no qualms in throwing China under the bus by bolstering India's military firepower. The message from India and Russia has thus clearly been communicated to Biden and Jinping respectively. This also marks the emergence of a new world order, with India and Russia on one side and China and Biden's America on the other.